I pushed open the front door after a 12-hour shift in the ER, my scrubs still smelling like antiseptic and exhaustion. The house was dark, silent, wrong. Then I saw it on the kitchen counter. A piece of notebook paper with Brad's handwriting. "I'm done with you and your boring life. I'm taking everything. And this house is sold, by the way. Enjoy what's left." My hands trembled as I read it twice. 3 times. 7 years of marriage. Our home. Everything we built. Gone in a note. I pulled out my phone and texted back with numb fingers. "Saw your note. Thanks for the heads up." I stood there in the kitchen we renovated together, the one with the subway tile I installed myself on weekends between shifts. The silence pressed against my ears. My nursing bag slipped from my shoulder and hit the floor with a thud that seemed too loud, too real. This couldn't be happening. But the note was there, and so was the emptiness where Brad should have been. I walked through our house like a stranger, turning on lights in each room. The living room looked wrong, and it took me a moment to realize why. Brad's gaming setup was gone. The massive monitor, the expensive chair, the console collection Head spent thousands on. Gone. I moved to our bedroom. His side of the closet gaped empty. Every shirt, every pair of shoes, vanished. My heart hammered as I opened my laptop and logged into our joint bank account. The balance made my stomach drop. $417. Yesterday there had been $43,000. $43,000 I'd saved from years of overtime shifts, double shifts, holiday shifts. I scrolled through the transaction history with shaking hands, withdrawals, transfers, all dated within the last week. All while I'd been at the hospital saving lives. I checked our credit cards next. Maxed out. Every single one. Purchases I didn't recognize. Designer clothes from boutiques I'd never heard of. Expensive restaurants in downtown Portland. A jewelry store charge for $6,000 dated 2 weeks ago. I never received any jewelry. The bathroom was next. My wedding ring, the simple gold band we'd chosen together, sat on the counter next to the sink. Another note rested beside it. "You can keep this." It meant nothing anyway. Those words hit harder than the first note. 7 years condensed into nothing. I picked up the ring with trembling fingers, and that's when I started to cry. Not loud, dramatic sobs, but silent tears that felt like they came from somewhere deeper than sadness. This was grief mixed with something else. Violation. Betrayal on a level I hadn't known existed. I walked into Brad's home office, the small second-bedroom Head claimed for himself 2 years ago. His desk was empty except for the trash can. I don't know what made me look inside, but I did. Crumpled papers. I smoothed them out on the desk. Printed emails. From a divorce attorney. Dated 3 months ago. 3 months. While I'd been working night shifts, picking up extra hours so we could afford the new roof we needed. Had been planning this. I photographed everything with my phone. Every empty space. Every statement. Every piece of paper. I didn't know why yet, but some instinct from watching too many true crime documentaries told me to document it all. Then I found it. A receipt that had slipped behind the dresser in our bedroom. Airport parking from last month when Brad said he had a work conference in Seattle. But the receipt was for long-term parking at PDX. I pulled out my phone and searched the confirmation number printed at the bottom. It led me to a travel booking site. 2. First-class tickets to Bali, departing in 3 days. But the second ticket wasn't in my name. It was for Courtney Mitchell. My hands went numb. I typed the name into social media with robotic precision. Her profile appeared immediately. 24 years old. Long blonde hair. Posts about manifesting abundance and living your best life. Photo after photo of luxury dinners, designer handbags, sunset beach shots with captions about deserving the best. I scrolled further. There. A picture from 3 weeks ago. She was wearing a gold bracelet with tiny diamonds. The same bracelet from the jewelry store charge. The one Brad said Head ordered for my birthday last month, but that it hadn't arrived yet. It had arrived. Just not for me. I sat on the floor of my bedroom and let it sink in. This wasn't just Brad leaving. This was Brad systematically destroying my life while building a new one. Every dollar I'd earned caring for patients. Every exhausted night I'd come home too tired to talk. Every sacrifice I'd made thinking we were building something together. He'd been spending it on her. Planning his escape. setting me up to take the fall. The betrayal wasn't just that he left. It was how thoroughly Head calculated it all. I called in sick to work the next morning for the first time in 3 years. My colleague Marissa had recommended a divorce attorney once during a lunch break, talking about her sister's messy split. Id filed the name away without thinking Id ever need it. Jennifer Walsh. I found her number and called before I could talk myself out of it. Her office was in a renovated historic building in downtown Portland, the kind with exposed brick and huge windows. Jennifer was waiting when I arrived, late 40s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense handshake. I laid everything out on her conference table: the notes, the bank statements, the credit card bills, the emails from Brad's attorney, the travel itinerary, photos of Courtney's social media. Jennifer examined each document with the focus of a surgeon. After 20 minutes of silence, she looked up at me. Alexandra, I need you to understand something. Your husband filed for divorce 2 weeks ago. Hess claiming irreconcilable differences. My throat tightened. 2 weeks ago? I didn't know. I was never served. The address on the filing is a P.O. box. He listed it as your current residence. She slid a paper across the table. Hess also filed a claim that you were financially controlling and that he's entitled to half of everything, including your retirement account. My retirement account? I built that over 10 years. Hess barely worked consistently for the last 3. Jennifer nodded grimly. Oregon is a no-fault divorce state, so the affair won't matter much in terms of asset division. But the financial fraud will. The problem is proving it quickly enough. The house sale could finalize in 30 days if we don't stop it. The house sale is real. My voice came out strangled. He forged your signature on preliminary documents with a real estate investor named Dale Robbins. Robbins specializes in quick cash sales, usually targeting people in distress. This has all the hallmarks of a planned scheme. I felt like I was falling. How could he forge my signature? Don't they need notarization? They do. Which means someone notarized a forged signature, which is also illegal. Well, pursue that. Jennifer leaned forward. Alexandra, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with yourself when you answer. Are you going to fight this, or are you too shocked, too heartbroken, too tired to see it through? Because men like Brad count on you being all 3. They count on you rolling over. Are you going to prove him right? The question hit me like cold water. Was I going to let him do this? Let him steal everything Id worked for? Let him walk away to Bali with his 24-year-old girlfriend, while I dealt with debt and a destroyed credit score? No, I said. The word came out stronger than I felt. No, I'm going to fight. Jennifer's expression shifted into something that looked almost like a smile. Good. Then let's get to work. Marissa showed up at my house that evening with pizza and wine. We sat on my living room floor, surrounded by file boxes from Brad's office. I can't believe he did this, she kept saying. I always thought Brad was harmless. Lazy, maybe, but not cruel. Cruel is exactly what this is, I said, pulling out another folder. This was planned, calculated. That's when I found it, hidden in the back of a drawer in Brad's desk, a folder I'd almost missed. Inside were loan documents. A personal loan for $70,000 taken out 6 months ago. Our house was listed as collateral. The signature at the bottom was supposed to be mine. It wasn't. Marissa, look at this. My hands shook as I held up the papers. She took them, her eyes widening. He forged your signature on a loan? That's identity theft. That's fraud. I looked at the lender's name. Marcus Finch, Finch Financial Solutions. The address was local, a small office in Beaverton. $70,000, I whispered. Where did it go? We searched through bank statements, but there was no record of the money ever entering our accounts. It had gone somewhere else entirely. Brad had borrowed against our home, forged my name, and hidden the money. And now the real estate investor trying to buy our house was probably connected to this predatory lender. It all clicked into place like a horrible puzzle. This wasn't just a divorce. This was a conspiracy to destroy me financially while Brad started fresh. He hadn't just planned to leave. Head planned to bury me in debt and walk away clean. I photographed every page with trembling hands. The rage that had been building since I found the first note crystallized into something cold and focused. Brad thought I was too tired, too trusting. too broken to fight back. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Jennifer's face went pale when I showed her the loan documents the next morning. She spread them across her desk and pulled out her laptop. Marcus Finch, she muttered, typing rapidly. I know that name. She turned the screen toward me. News articles, legal complaints. A Better Business Bureau page filled with 1-star reviews. Finch specializes in predatory lending. He targets people in vulnerable situations, charges illegal interest rates, and then, when they can't pay, he has connections to buy their property for pennies on the dollar. The real estate investor, I said. Dale Robbins. Exactly. They work together. Finch loans money people can't pay back. Robbins swoops in and buys the property in foreclosure. Your husband borrowed $70,000 against a house you didn't know could be used as collateral, probably promised Finch and Robbins a cut when the house sold, and planned to let you drown in the debt while he declared bankruptcy and walked away. The room tilted. He was going to destroy my credit. My nursing license requires good credit for certain positions. He knew that. Jennifer nodded slowly. He knew exactly what he was doing. The question is, can we prove he knew? Or will he claim he was desperate and made mistakes? I thought about the Bali tickets, the designer purchases, Courtney's bracelet. He wasn't desperate. He was greedy. Over the next week, I worked my nursing shifts on autopilot, while spending every spare moment investigating. I learned more about my husband in those 7 days than I had in 7 years of marriage. The pieces I'd ignored or explained away now formed a clear picture. Brad had been distant for over a year, critical of my work schedule. Head called me boring when I was too exhausted to go out after a 12-hour shift. Head complained I was always at the hospital when my overtime was paying our bills. Head insisted on handling all the finances because I was too busy, and I'd trusted him. What a mistake that had been. I remembered the night 6 months ago when Head seemed stressed, said we needed more money, encouraged me to pick up extra shifts. I'd done it, worked myself to exhaustion while he was taking out illegal loans and planning his exit. I created a fake Instagram account with a generic name and followed Courtney. Her posts were public, easy to access. I scrolled through months of content. Expensive dinners, designer shopping bags, captions about manifesting my dream life and being with someone who values me. Then I found something interesting. A private account she tagged occasionally. I requested to follow using my fake profile, claiming to be a lifestyle blogger. She accepted within an hour. The private account was where Courtney showed her real self. Posts complaining about broke guys who waste my time. Screenshots of conversations with friends where she bragged about landing a guy who's about to be loaded. Photos from 18 months ago with a different man, much older, with captions about upgrade season. She'd done this before. Multiple times. Found men with money or access to money, pushed them to spend on her, then moved on when they were tapped out. Except Brad didn't actually have money. He'd stolen mine. And soon He'd have nothing left to give her. I screenshot everything. Every post. Every comment. Every brag. Evidence that Brad wasn't some victim of a midlife crisis. He was part of a calculated scheme. Then I got the email that changed everything. It was from my bank, flagged as high priority. Suspicious activity alert. Unauthorized attempt to access individual retirement account. Brad had tried to access my IRA, claiming to be my attorney with power of attorney. The bank's fraud department had flagged it because I'd never granted anyone power of attorney. They'd frozen the account and were requesting verification. I called Jennifer immediately. Hess, still trying to steal from me. Even after leaving. Even after taking everything from our joint account. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. This is actually good news. How is this good news? Because attempting to access your retirement account with fraudulent power of attorney creates a clear paper trail. This isn't a civil matter anymore, Alexandra. This is federal fraud. The IRA is protected under federal law. We can pursue criminal charges. My heart pounded. Criminal charges. Yes. And if we can connect this to the other fraud, the forged loan documents, the identity theft, we're building a case that could mean serious prison time. At minimum, it gives us enormous leverage. Brad made a critical mistake. He got greedy and sloppy. For the first time since finding that note on my kitchen counter, I felt something other than fear and rage. I felt hope. Not just that I'd survive this, but that I'd win. Jennifer laid out the strategy in her office 2 days later. We're going to let Brad think he's winning. You're going to text him and tell him you're too tired to fight, that you'll sign whatever he wants. You want me to lie to him. Something about it felt wrong, even after everything had done. I want you to be strategic. Right now, Brad thinks he's gotten away with this. If we come at him aggressively, hell, hide assets, destroy evidence, maybe even flee the country early. But if he thinks you're defeated, hell, get comfortable. Sloppy. Hell, make more mistakes. I nodded slowly. What about the criminal charges? I'm coordinating with the district attorney's office. We're building the case quietly. The bank has filed the fraud report on the IRA attempt. I've reported the forged signatures to the Real Estate Commission. The police have opened an investigation into the identity theft. Everything is in motion, but Brad doesn't know that yet. I pulled out my phone and typed a message to Brad with Jennifer watching. I got your note. I'm too tired to fight. I'll sign whatever you want. Just send the papers. His response came within 3 minutes. Smart choice. I'll have the documents ready. You're finally being reasonable. The condescension in his words made my jaw clench, but I typed back. Just want this over with. Me too. You'll be fine, Alex. You're tough. You'll rebuild. I wanted to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I screenshot the conversation and forwarded it to Jennifer. Evidence of his awareness, his intent, his complete lack of remorse. Over the next several days, I continued working my shifts at the hospital. To my colleagues, I was just going through a rough patch. No one except Marissa knew what I was actually building. Every night after work, I'd meet with Jennifer or research or document. I was running on 4 hours of sleep and pure determination. I decided to take one more risk. Using my fake Instagram account, I messaged Courtney pretending to be a luxury travel agent. Hi. I noticed you're traveling to Bali soon. We're offering complimentary upgrades for influencers. Would you be interested in discussing premium villa options? She responded within an hour. Oh my God, yes. My boyfriend is taking me for 2 months. He wants only the best. Has a tech executive with major investments. Send me your packages. 2 months. Brad had told her 2 months. I felt sick. I asked a few more questions, keeping up the charade. Courtney gushed about private chefs, shopping sprees in Seminyak, the life she deserved. She had no idea Brad was broke, no idea had stolen everything, no idea his house of cards was about to collapse. I recorded every conversation, screenshot every message. More evidence. Brad continued texting me with increasingly condescending messages. Courtney appreciates me in ways you never did. I need someone who understands success and ambition. You were always too focused on work to actually live life. Each message felt like a knife, but I saved every single one. Then, 3 days before his scheduled flight to Bali, I received a certified letter. Brad had filed an emergency motion claiming I was hiding assets and requesting immediate court intervention to seize my nursing income and force the house sale to proceed. He was accelerating everything, getting aggressive. I called Jennifer in a panic. Hez trying to force the house sale now. Can he do this? Who filed the motion? I checked the letterhead. Thomas Chen, attorney at law. Jennifer typed rapidly on her computer. Then she started laughing. Actually laughing. Alexandra, Brad just made the biggest mistake of his life. Thomas Chen had his law license suspended 6 months ago for ethical violations. Hez not a practicing attorney. This motion is worthless. And Brad just created another massive legal problem for himself by hiring a disbarred lawyer to file false court documents. I felt a smile spread across my face for the first time in weeks. Hez panicking. Hez unraveling. Which means it's time to spring the trap. Can you come to my office tomorrow at 2 p.m.? Tell Brad you're ready to sign everything. Hell, wanna be there. Good. Let him come. Let him bring his girlfriend. Let him think he's won. And then well serve him with everything we've built. I barely slept that night. Not from fear, but from anticipation. Brad thought Hed destroyed me. He thought I was too tired, too trusting, too weak to fight back. Tomorrow, Hed learned the truth. I dressed carefully that morning. Not in my nursing scrubs, but in the navy suit I'd worn to my nursing school graduation. I wanted to look like someone who had her life together, even though my insides were churning. Marissa had offered to come with me for support, but I told her no. This was something I needed to do myself. Jennifer's office at 2 p.m. I arrived 15 minutes early. She was ready, documents stacked neatly on the conference table. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Terrified, angry, ready, good. Remember, no matter what he says, no matter how he tries to manipulate you, we stick to the plan." Brad arrived at exactly 2 p.m., and he didn't come alone. Courtney was with him, hanging on his arm like a designer accessory. She was wearing a white sundress that probably cost more than my monthly car payment, her hair perfectly styled, her makeup flawless. Brad wore a suit I'd never seen before, charcoal gray with a subtle pinstripe. Designer, expensive, bought with my money. He had the audacity to smile when he saw me. "Alex, thanks for being reasonable about this." I didn't respond, just gestured to the chairs across the conference table. Brad and Courtney sat, her hand possessively on his arm. She looked at me with something that might have been pity. Poor, boring, dumped wife, that's what she saw. Jennifer slid a stack of papers across the table. Brad barely glanced at them before reaching for a pen. "Where do I sign?" "Before my client signs anything," Jennifer said calmly, "I need to inform you that you're being served." Brad's pen froze. "What?" The door opened. A process server I hadn't noticed waiting in the hallway entered with a folder. He handed papers to Brad with professional detachment. "Brad Harrison, you're being served." Brad's face went from confident to confused to pale as he looked at the documents. Criminal charges for identity theft, fraud, forgery, a civil lawsuit for theft of marital assets, a restraining order preventing him from accessing any accounts or property in my name. Notification that the FBI Financial Crimes Division was investigating the retirement account breach. "What is this?" His voice came out strangled. "This is insane. Alexandra, what are you doing?" I stood up. My legs were shaking, but my voice came out steady. "I'm stopping you from destroying my life. I don't understand. We agreed you'd sign. You said you wouldn't fight." I lied. The words felt powerful, just like you lied. For months, maybe years. Jennifer spoke up. "Mr. Harrison, we have evidence of systematic fraud. You forged your wife's signature on a $70,000 loan. You drained joint bank accounts. You maxed out credit cards in her name. You attempted to access her retirement account with fraudulent power of attorney. You forged signatures on real estate documents. Every single one of these actions is a crime." Brad's eyes darted around the room like a trapped animal. "I can explain. The loan was for us. For our future. The money was for investments." "Then where is it?" I asked. "Where's the $70,000, Brad?" "Because I've looked. It's not in any account, but I know where some of it went." I pulled out my phone and opened Courtney's Instagram. $6,000 for a bracelet, $4,000 for dinners at restaurants I've never been to, designer clothes, first-class plane tickets to Bali for 2 months. Courtney's face went white. She looked at Brad. "You said you were a VP at your company. You said you were already divorced." "I am a VP," Brad stammered. "I'm in sales. It's complicated." "You're not a VP of anything," Jennifer said flatly. "You're a mid-level sales associate at a failing tech startup. Your income last year was $48,000. Your wife made triple that." I turned to Courtney, and I surprised myself by feeling something almost like sympathy. Almost. "Those tickets to Bali? Bought with stolen money. That bracelet you're probably wearing right now? I earned it. Every designer bag, every expensive dinner, everything he gave you was stolen from me, from my overtime shifts, from my retirement savings. Hes not wealthy. Hes a thief." Courtney stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. She pulled off the bracelet and threw it on the table. "You told me you were getting divorced. You said your ex-wife was already out of the picture." Her voice was rising. "You said you had investments. You said you'd take care of me." "I was going to," Brad said desperately. "After the house sold, we'd have money, we'd have everything." "After you stole her house!" Courtney's perfect composure cracked. "Oh my God, I'm part of a crime. Do you know what this does to my brand? My followers?" I almost laughed at that. Her brand, not the morality of it. Not the woman whose life was being destroyed, her brand. Courtney grabbed her designer purse and headed for the door. She turned back once. Lose my number, and if you've taken any photos of me, delete them. I want nothing to do with this. The door slammed behind her. Brad stared after her, then slowly turned back to us. The confidence was gone. The smugness had evaporated. He looked smaller somehow, sitting alone at the conference table. There's more, Jennifer continued. The lawyer you hired to file that emergency motion yesterday? Thomas Chen? His license was suspended. That motion isn't just denied. It's evidence of more fraud. And Marcus Finch, the man who gave you the illegal loan, has under federal investigation now. When we reported your case, it opened up an entire criminal network. Dale Robbins, the real estate investor, also under investigation. You didn't just commit fraud against your wife. You involved yourself with organized criminals. Brad's face had gone gray. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know they were criminals. Marcus just offered me a loan when the banks turned me down. He said it was standard, with $70,000 in cash and forged signatures. I couldn't keep the anger out of my voice anymore. You knew, Brad. You knew exactly what you were doing. I made mistakes, he said, and his voice cracked. I made terrible mistakes. But I never meant to hurt you. Things just spiraled. I met Courtney and she made me feel alive again. You were always at work, always tired. We barely talked anymore. I felt invisible. So you decided to steal everything I'd worked for? That was your solution to feeling invisible. I panicked. His voice rose. I owed people money. I had debts you didn't know about. Gambling debts. That stopped me. Gambling. Jennifer leaned forward, her expression sharp. What gambling debts? Brad put his head in his hands. It'd been betting on sports. Online poker. It started small, but it got out of control. I owed $40,000 to people who don't take no for an answer. That's why I took the loan from Marcus, to pay them off. But then I met Courtney, and she expected this lifestyle, and I couldn't tell her I was broke, and everything just kept getting worse. The door opened again. 2 police officers entered the conference room. Brad looked up, and I watched the reality of his situation finally sink in. One officer spoke clearly. Brad Harrison, you're under arrest for identity theft, fraud, and forgery. You have the right to remain silent. As they read him his rights and put handcuffs on his wrists, Brad started to cry. Not angry tears. Not manipulative tears. Real, broken sobs. Please, he said, looking at me as they pulled him to his feet. Please, Alexandra. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I'll fix everything. Please don't do this. The man who'd written it meant nothing anyway about our marriage was begging. The man who'd called me boring and stolen, my life savings was broken. I stood there watching him cry, and I felt a complicated tangle of emotions. Pity, disgust, vindication, grief. I didn't do this to you, I said quietly. You did this to yourself. As they let him out, he was still crying, still begging. Jennifer put a hand on my shoulder. Are you okay? I wasn't sure how to answer that. I'd just watched my husband of 7 years get arrested, but I also felt something that had been missing since I found that note on the kitchen counter. Control, power, the certainty that I wouldn't be destroyed by this. I will be, I said. 2 weeks after Brad's arrest, the legal machinery was in full motion. Brad had been released on bail posted by his parents, who'd driven up from Sacramento in shock. They'd called me to apologize, mortified by what their son had done. His mother cried on the phone. We raised him better than this. We had no idea. I believed her. The fraudulent house sale was voided. All the forged documents were nullified by the court. Marcus Finch and Dale Robbins were both facing multiple charges, and my case had helped expose their entire operation. Apparently, they'd targeted 12 other families in Portland the same way. The district attorney had called to thank me for coming forward. The loan taken out in my name was declared fraudulent and discharged. My credit report, which had been destroyed by Brad's actions, was being systematically repaired with Jennifer's help and documentation from the police investigation. The bank returned my $43,000 with interest. Every penny Brad had stolen was frozen as evidence and would eventually be returned to me. But more than the money, more than the house being saved, it'd been granted something invaluable. My story had gotten out. Not in a public way at first, but through the legal system. The DA's office used my case as an example in trainings about financial abuse. Victim advocates were given my documentation as a model for how to build evidence. I took a week off work to process everything, not because I was falling apart, but because I needed space to put myself back together. The house felt different now. It was truly mine. Every room I walked through, I was reclaiming it from the memory of Brad. Marissa came over with paint samples. Time to redecorate. Make this place yours. We repainted the bedroom a soft sage green, nothing like the beige Brad had insisted on. I bought new bedding, crisp white with navy accents. I moved furniture around until the space felt right. In the garden, I planted new flowers, lavender and roses and bright yellow coreopsis, things that would bloom and return year after year. One evening, Marissa and I had a bonfire in the backyard. I brought out the box of photos and letters from my relationship with Brad. 7 years of memories. We sorted through them one by one. Some I kept, the early ones where we'd both been happy and genuine. But most of them went into the fire. Wedding photos where Brad had probably already been lying to me. Vacation pictures funded by credit cards, heads secretly maxed out. Valentine's Day cards with words that meant nothing. I watched them burn and felt lighter with each flame. The hardest part was the emotional processing. I started seeing a therapist, Dr. Patricia Wynn, twice a week. She specialized in trauma and betrayal. In our sessions, I talked about more than just Brad's fraud. I talked about how Eid ignored red flags because Eid been conditioned to be understanding. To give him the benefit of the doubt. To support him even when he didn't support me. You're not responsible for his choices, Dr. Nguyen told me. But you can learn from what happened. You can rebuild your boundaries. You can trust yourself again. I joined a support group for survivors of financial abuse. Sitting in that circle of women, hearing their stories, I realized how common this was. How many people were silently suffering through partners who controlled money, who stole, who manipulated. I wasn't alone. And more importantly, Id fought back. Some of the women in that group were still trapped. My story gave them hope. Brad's legal situation unfolded over the following months. He pleaded guilty to avoid trial. The evidence was overwhelming, and his public defender advised him that fighting would only make things worse. He received 3 years probation, a felony record, and was ordered to pay full restitution. Every penny had stolen, plus damages, plus legal fees. His parents helped with an initial payment of $25,000 as a gesture of goodwill and apology. He lost his job when the charges became public. His company didn't want to be associated with someone convicted of fraud. He moved back in with his parents in Sacramento, into their basement. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he was working at a retail store, trying to rebuild his life. He was attending Gamblers Anonymous meetings and seeing a therapist. I genuinely hoped he got better. Not for my sake, but for his own. The Brad Id married had been buried under addiction and bad choices, but maybe there was a chance for him to become someone better. That journey wasn't my responsibility anymore. Courtney had blocked Brad on everything and posted a vague statement on Instagram about removing toxic people from my life. She never mentioned the details, protecting her brand as always. Her followers never knew how close she'd come to being implicated in a fraud scheme. My nursing colleagues noticed I seemed different, lighter, more present. I'd been running on empty for so long, working myself to exhaustion, that I'd forgotten what it felt like to actually live. Now I took my breaks. I left work on time when my shift ended. I said no to extra overtime unless I genuinely wanted it. I reconnected with hobbies I'd abandoned. I started painting again, watercolors of the Oregon coast and the mountains. I joined a hiking group and spent weekends on trails I'd always meant to explore. I went to my book club meetings instead of canceling because I was too tired. Most surprisingly, I became an advocate. 6 months after the confrontation in Jennifer's office, I received a call from a local news producer. The district attorney had given them my name as someone who'd successfully fought back against financial abuse and fraud. They wanted to do a feature story. I almost said no. Did I want to put my pain on display? But then I thought about the women in my support group. The families Marcus Finch had targeted, the people still suffering in silence. I said yes. The segment aired on a Wednesday evening. Nurse outsmarts husband's elaborate fraud scheme. How one woman fought back. They interviewed me, Jennifer, and the district attorney. They explained the warning signs of financial abuse. They showed viewers how to protect themselves. The response was overwhelming. My inbox flooded with messages, women thanking me, sharing their own stories, asking for advice. Men, too, who'd been victims of financial manipulation. The story went viral online, shared thousands of times. What had started as the worst day of my life had become something else entirely. A platform, a purpose, a way to help others. Jennifer and I started meeting regularly to discuss an idea, a nonprofit providing free legal consultation and education for financial abuse survivors. We called it Financial Voices. Within 3 months, WED secured funding through grants and donations. Within 6 months, WED helped 43 families navigate situations similar to mine. I wrote a handbook with Jennifer's legal expertise and my personal experience. We distributed it through hospitals, community centers, domestic violence shelters, Protecting Yourself from Financial Abuse, a survivor's guide. Simple, practical, empowering. My story was now being used in law school classes as a case study. Jennifer guest lectured, and she always brought me along to share the victim's perspective. Students learned not just the legal mechanics, but the human cost of these crimes. A year after Brad's note on the counter, I sat in my kitchen drinking coffee. The same kitchen where it had all begun. But everything was different now. The house was mine, refinanced in my name only. I'd been promoted at the hospital to senior nurse, training new ER staff. I was traveling again, taking vacations I denied myself for years. I'd just returned from a 2-week trip to Italy, something I'd dreamed about since nursing school. Financial Voices had helped 87 families in 1 year. WED expanded to offer workshops at nursing conferences, teaching healthcare workers how to recognize signs of financial abuse in their patients' lives. WED trained hospital staff on providing resources and referrals. I hadn't dated anyone seriously. I wasn't ready, and I was okay with that. I was focused on rebuilding myself, discovering who Alexandra was outside of being Brad's wife. But I was open to it eventually, on my own terms, with someone who deserved my trust. My relationship with my parents had deepened. They drove up from Eugene monthly to visit. My sister and I talked on the phone weekly instead of our previous sporadic texts. I'd built a circle of genuine, supportive friends through my advocacy work and hobbies. One afternoon, I ran into Brad at a grocery store in Portland. He must have been visiting someone. He looked different, older, tired. He was wearing jeans and a plain t-shirt, pushing a cart with basic groceries. He saw me and froze. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he approached cautiously. Alexandra. Hi, Brad. I kept my voice neutral. I know I'm not supposed to contact you, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. I've been working with a therapist, dealing with my addiction, trying to understand why I did what I did. There's no excuse. But I want you to know I recognize how badly I hurt you. I studied his face. He looked sincere. Broken, but sincere. I hope you're getting the help you need. I am. It's slow, but I'm trying. He hesitated. I heard about your nonprofit. What you're doing. It's incredible. You always were the stronger one. I wasn't stronger. I just chose to fight back instead of running away. He nodded slowly. I deserved that. Yes, I said simply. You did. We stood there in the grocery store aisle, our past a heavy presence between us. Finally, I spoke again. Brad, I don't forgive you. I may never forgive you. But I don't hate you either. What you did gave me a clarity I didn't know I needed. I've built something meaningful from the worst thing that ever happened to me. So in a strange way, I'm grateful. Not for what you did, but for what I discovered I was capable of. His eyes filled with tears. I'm glad something good came from it, even if it'll never be part of that good. Take care of yourself, I said, and I meant it. I walked away without looking back, my cart full of fresh vegetables and good wine and flowers for my kitchen table. I heard him say something soft behind me. Maybe goodbye, maybe something else. But I didn't turn around. That chapter was closed. 1 year and 2 months after I found Brad's note on the kitchen counter, I woke up in my bedroom and felt peace. Real, genuine peace. The kind that comes not from forgetting pain but from transforming it. I renovated the kitchen exactly how I'd always wanted it. White cabinets, butcher block countertops, open shelving displaying my grandmother's dishes. The space where the note had been now held a coffee station with my favorite beans and a French press. Every morning, I made coffee there and looked out the window at the garden. It expanded. Tomatoes and herbs and bright flowers that attracted butterflies. Financial voices had grown beyond anything it imagined. WED helped 123 families in 18 months. WED expanded to offer monthly workshops, a hotline, and partnerships with legal aid organizations across Oregon. Jennifer had recruited 3 more lawyers to volunteer their time. WED secured a small office space in downtown Portland, donated by a commercial real estate company whose owner had been a victim of financial abuse herself. I spoke at nursing conferences regularly now, presenting on recognizing financial abuse in patients. Healthcare workers were often the first to see the signs, patients who seemed controlled about money, who couldn't access their own accounts, who showed signs of stress about finances despite having professional jobs. Training staff to ask the right questions and provide resources was saving lives. My story had been featured in nursing journals and on several podcasts about financial literacy and abuse awareness. Law schools across the country used my case in their curricula. It'd become, somewhat accidentally, a voice for something important. But the most meaningful part wasn't the public recognition. It was the private messages. The woman who left her abusive husband after reading my handbook, the man who recognized he was being financially manipulated and sought help, the adult child who realized her elderly parent was being exploited, one person at a time. We were making a difference. My personal life had bloomed too. Id started dating someone I met through my hiking group. His name was Grant. He was a high school teacher, and he made me laugh. It wasn't serious yet, but it was healthy. Equal. Based on respect and transparency. He knew my story and admired how Id handled it. "You're the strongest person I've ever met," Head said on our 3rd date. Id corrected him. "I'm not strong. I just chose not to give up. I took myself on adventures now." Last month, Id spent 10 days hiking in New Zealand. Next spring, I was planning to visit Japan. Id bought a kayak and spent summer evenings on the Willamette River. I'd taken a ceramics class and filled my house with slightly lopsided bowls I'd made myself. My relationship with my family was stronger than ever. My parents visited monthly. My sister and I planned a trip to Napa for wine tasting. I'd reconnected with old friends from nursing school and made new ones through my advocacy work. I'd even adopted a dog, a rescue named Scout. He was a mutt with floppy ears and boundless energy, and coming home to him made the house feel complete. One evening, I was preparing for a speaking engagement at a women's shelter. I'd give a talk about financial independence and share my story. As I gathered my materials in the kitchen, I thought about Brad's note. I'd kept it, filed away in a folder with all the other evidence. Sometimes I looked at it to remind myself how far I'd come. "I'm done with you and your boring life. I'm taking everything." Head tried to take everything, but he couldn't take the one thing that mattered most: my ability to choose who I became next. Head tried to destroy me, but instead, Head revealed what I was made of. The life lesson I'd learned wasn't simple. It was layered and complex, built from pain and triumph. Trust, but verify. Love doesn't mean blind faith. A true partnership requires transparency, especially about finances. Never again would I let someone else control my financial life without full visibility. "Your hard work is not boring." Brad had called me boring because I worked 12-hour shifts saving lives. My dedication to my patients and profession wasn't the problem. His lack of character was. Working hard, being tired, being committed to something meaningful doesn't make you less valuable. It makes you admirable. Being kind doesn't mean being weak. I'd been raised to be understanding, to give people the benefit of the doubt, to support my partner. Those aren't flaws. But kindness without boundaries becomes enabling. I'd learned that fighting back when wronged doesn't make you cruel. It makes you self-respecting. Document everything. Every screenshot, every photo, every saved email had built my case. In situations of manipulation and abuse, documentation is power. Evidence protects you when someone tries to rewrite reality. Ask for help. Without Jennifer, without Marissa, without my support group, I might not have survived this. I'd been conditioned to handle everything myself, to not burden others. But vulnerability and asking for help isn't weakness. It's wisdom. Financial literacy is self-defense. Id trusted Brad with our finances because I was busy and tired. Never again would I be ignorant about my own money. Id learned to read every statement, question every charge, maintain separate accounts, understand my credit score, and protect my assets. Every woman, every person, needed these skills. Betrayal reveals character, yours and theirs. Brad's actions showed who he really was, but my response showed who I really was, too. In crisis, you discover your strength. Id learned I was capable of far more than Id known. Pain can become purpose. The worst experience of my life had become my platform to help others. I'd taken the devastation and transformed it into advocacy, education, and support for people in similar situations. Suffering wasn't wasted if it could prevent others from suffering the same way. As I locked my front door and headed to my speaking engagement, I paused on the porch. The evening sun lit up the flowers I'd planted. Scout barked happily from inside. My phone buzzed with a text from Grant. "Good luck tonight. You're going to be amazing." I smiled. This life, the one I'd built from the ruins of my marriage, was better than anything it had before. More authentic, more purposeful, more mine. If someone had told me a year ago that finding Brad's note would lead to this, I wouldn't have believed them. But here's what I knew now, with absolute certainty. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the catalyst for the best thing, not because of what they did to you, but because of what you discover you're capable of when you fight back. Brad had thought I was too tired, too trusting, too broken to stand up. Had underestimated the strength that comes from having nothing left to lose. I didn't just survive his betrayal. I transformed it, and now I helped other women do the same. That note had said he was taking everything. But he couldn't take my resilience. He couldn't take my determination. He couldn't take my ability to rebuild. He couldn't take my voice. Had taken money. But I'd taken my life back. And given the choice between his life now, full of regret and consequences, and mine, full of purpose and growth, I knew who'd really won. I drove to the women's shelter with my presentation materials and my story. 20. 3 women waited to hear how I'd fought back, how I'd reclaimed my power, how they could do the same. This was my life now. This was my purpose. And it had all started with a note on a kitchen counter that was supposed to destroy me but instead set me free. I'd learned that you're not what happens to you. You're what you choose to become after it happens. And I'd chosen to become someone stronger, wiser, and more compassionate than I'd ever been before. That was the real victory. Not the legal win, not the money recovered, not even the justice served. The victory was in who I'd become through the fire. Someone who turned pain into power. Someone who helped others find their voice. Someone who proved that you can be knocked down and still get back up. Someone who showed that being tired doesn't mean being weak, that being trusting doesn't mean being foolish, and that being hurt doesn't mean staying broken. Brad's note had said he was done with me, but I wasn't done with myself. I was just getting started. Now I want to hear from you. Have you or someone you know ever experienced financial betrayal or control in a relationship? What signs do you think people should watch for? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your story might help someone else recognize a dangerous situation before it's too late. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more true stories about overcoming life's challenges. Share this video with someone who might need to hear it. You never know whose life you might change by spreading this message. Thank you so much for listening to my journey. I hope it reminds you that no matter how dark things seem, you have the strength within you to fight back and rebuild. You deserve respect, honesty, and a life that's truly yours. Never forget that. Take care of yourselves, and remember, you're stronger than you think.